Welcome to another episode of Diary of a Real Girl. This week's episode, I'm going to introduce you to Miss Lynn Morgan. Well, she deems herself an ambassador for the kingdom of God. And this week she'll be discussing her book, Tell the Devil I've Changed My Mind, her redemption song. And she'll be discussing a little bit about walking in purpose.
Hi, I'm Lynn Morgan, and I'm real. So this is my real girl testimony. My testimony is one that's still evolving, to be quite honest, because I've been serving God for a very long time. I started when I was at the wonderful and tender age of 16, and from there I got into my music. I got into singing in the choir and doing all kind of things, and I became a worship minister. I traveled across the US and the Caribbean ministering with a group, etc., etc. And at that time I would have thought, well, this is what God has for me to do. This is the real thing. But within recent years, I've found that when it comes to fulfilling your purpose and the reason for being, it's like an onion. I want you to imagine an onion just unraveling layers and layers and layers. There's so much more to us than we even anticipate. And so with me, God kept unraveling more and more and more, and I recognized that, wow, I hadn't even done anything. It was a bare blip on the Richter scale of life. I hadn't really done anything at all as it relates to my purpose. And so out of that, I eventually became a writer, and I have written so far 2 books. I'm currently working on my 3rd book, and at some point we're gonna show you a little snippet of that book. But the very first book I wrote, I think, was the one that really explained why I'm here and where I'm going. That book was called Tell the Devil I've Changed My Mind. This book is really about having an epiphany. It's like recognizing that there is more to your life, there's more to you, and that some of the thoughts that you were thinking may have just been stink. They may have just been warped based on experiences that you had in your childhood. So actually in the book I share a little bit about my childhood and a little bit about my teenage years, and then as I got older. And one probably more prominent story would have been when I was younger, and I remember being placed into what they call Infants A2. So at that time, Infants A2 would have been the 2nd class, kind of just underneath the Infants A1 class. And in my little mind, I was incensed. I was mad. I was like, these teachers don't know what they're doing. They don't recognize that I'm not supposed to be in here. And so I proceeded to teach them what they should do by leaving my class every single day. And I would saunter over to Infants A1, and I would get lashes every single day. Lashes don't really mean anything at some point. So I would get lashes every single day. But eventually, the teachers recognized, well, there must be some reason why this child is so insistent and so persistent. And I eventually was placed in Infants A1. All of that took place in the mind of a 5-year-old. Can you imagine that? Sometimes we think that when we learn about who we are, it's something that we learn, it's a skill we learn. Somewhere we go and we learn something new, so we recognize, oh, this is maybe who I am. But here is a little 5-year-old, my 5-year-old thinking, I've only been on the earth for 5 years, and I'm thinking, I know exactly who I am, and these people don't know who they are. there's a quote I have. It's kind of a favorite quote of mine, and I'm going to share it with you. So the quote goes like this: finding yourself is not really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket. You are also not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions that you drew about yourself when you were a child. These conclusions became your beliefs. These conclusions became your beliefs. Finding yourself, therefore, is actually returning to yourself, and unlearning, an excavation, a remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. And that's really what I'm going to be sharing about in our Real Girl Chat. And that's really what I think finding your purpose is about. You have to start to unpack some things, unpack the lies, unpack the belief system that you have that's warped. One of the questions that I asked in my book was, what if who you were was based on an inaccurate experience that you had in your childhood that caused you to grow up thinking, I'm not so smart, or I'm not like Sally over there, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. These beliefs are oftentimes formed because we have experiences with other people who they themselves, they don't know who they are. But unfortunately, those people tend to have or to play a significant role in our lives. So like a teacher, or sometimes a parent, or a dad. Somebody who has absolutely no idea who you are supposed to be has impacted your life. And what I found is that God is so faithful and patient, because when I really began to explore and to understand, it was years after I had become saved. So there I was, saved, going all these places, doing all these things. I was in ministry, I was busy, and I was even leading and teaching other people, but I had no idea who I really was. The thing is that finding out who I really am and who I'm supposed to be in the earth is one of the most important and significant things that has ever occurred in my life, and it will be in your life as well. If you really want to find your identity, yes, you're going to unpack those things I shared about, but then you're also going to have to connect to God. You're going to have to connect to Christ, because your true identity is hidden in Him. And there's no person on the earth who has a full knowledge and understanding of the things that God has placed inside of you or has created for you to do. And as a matter of fact, God is so wise that He hid those things in Himself. And what we have to do, our role, is to actively pursue, actively run after, actively seek Him, a relationship with Him. And then He, through His Spirit, He will start to begin to show us who we are in the earth. And if there's one other important thing I really want to say, and I'm going to expand on this a lot more, it's that you're not placed here to be anybody else's carbon copy. So let me speak to some Christians for a little bit. You are not placed here to be Moses. There was only one Moses. You are not placed here to be Joseph. There was only one Joseph. Well, you know what I mean. There was only one Joseph that was in Egypt that saved his brothers. Because there was another Joseph, right? He was the stepfather of Jesus, right? But you know what I mean. There was only one Paul of Tarsus. Or Saul of Tarsus, right? There was only one Paul. For too long in the body of Christ, we have been trying to pattern ourselves after someone else. We want to be like David because the Bible says that David was a man who was after God's own heart. Well, if you become someone who goes after God's own heart or goes after God's heart, then God himself, he will be able to reveal to you who you are. There is only one you. There is only one reason. Well, when I say one, I mean there are going to be little snippets, little different things you're going to do to fulfill your purpose. But there's only one reason you're here. So you have to find that thing. You have to unearth that thing. You can't spend your time trying to pattern yourselves after someone else. Because God has made you unique. He has given you a purpose. And he wants you to do that thing in the earth. One catalyst for me was when someone that I considered as a mentor passed away. And that was Dr. Miles Monroe. He didn't know he was my mentor. But there was just something about him that God used to minister to me. And then one day he just was not there anymore. And I was like, oh my goodness, this man has come into the earth and written practically like 52, 53 books, and I haven't even written one. So even though he lost his life in what we would consider to be a twinkling of an eye, he had done so much. He had so many conferences. He had poured out of himself into so many people that his leaving the earth was like, it was like the earth could still go on. His legacy, he still had a legacy to pass on. He still had something to pass on because he had poured out. He has sought God from a young age, committed his life to pursuing God, and then finding his identity and just living it out. And I thought to myself, but you haven't even done not even one book. And so shortly after he passed away, I got myself, together a little bit more, and I sat and I wrote that first book. And I guess, as they say, the rest is history. I guess what I really want to I can't share every single thing, every possible thing today. So I'm going to first encourage you to come out. Let's chat together. Let's talk about life on purpose. One of the things I really want to leave with you is the importance of having courage. To be yourself, you're going to have to be courageous, because you're going to find yourself challenged by persons who have already decided who you are, and who have already decided that you can't really break out of that box too much, and they're going to challenge you. They might not even intentionally challenge you, but they're going to challenge you. You're going to find yourself challenged by the expectations of society. You're going to find yourself challenged by your very own beliefs that are inaccurate. But I want to challenge you to live a life on purpose by becoming someone who's courageous. Be like Jesus. He was courageous. He was himself in spite of the fact that not just anybody, but the religious people told him, you can't really be Jesus. Not that you can't really be Jesus. You can't really be a king. You can't really be here to deliver people and you don't have a palace. You can't really be here to deliver people and you don't have anything to show for it. They challenged him. They challenged who he was, but he was so confident in his self, in his relationship with his Father. He was so confident in his purpose that nothing shook him. So if there's one thing I want to leave with you, is that you need to be bold and be courageous so that you can live life on purpose.
I'm sure what she had said is so impactful to you, because walking in purpose yields your best life. You will not feel satisfied, you will not feel complete until you are truly walking in purpose. And I hope that something that she said would have resonated with you and empowered you and impacted you to walk and live a life for God, and to live a life fulfilling His will and walking in purpose. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And she will be our featured speaker at our next Real Girl Chat on Zoom on July 4th at 6 p.m. Do not miss it, as we continue to discuss and be empowered and encouraged and find out how we can live a life that's on purpose. And don't forget, it's a tea party. Make sure you register early and order your tea party pack. It comes with a branded mug and a dessert from Sajeva Cake Boutique. It is going to be an awesome time. Do not miss it. Like, comment, subscribe, share, turn on your notifications, click that bell, and stay with us for the next episode of Diary of a Real Girl.